How is everybody? I'm good. I just got in from work. After our dinner service, we had to move all the furniture in the restaurant out and move in like all these million little two-top tables for tomorrow, which is Valentine's Day, because we have like 600 reservations. And we had to set up like 97 tables tonight. So we did it like fast and furious, and tomorrow should be interesting. So if I have time tomorrow, I was thinking about maybe doing a Valentine's Day reading for us, but that'll be iffy because we have to go into work extra early tomorrow. So it depends on how early I can get up and get started for the day, but I'm going to try. Today, we are here for our anchor message for the week, and we got some extra cards today, so we have a lot of cards to talk about. For starters, I was working on the Straightforward Oracle, which is the Oracle deck that we use in our lunation readings for our new moon and full moon workshops. And so this deck is my own deck that I've been writing for a while. And so I was writing some of the cards today, and the cards that I pulled out to finish the first draft of actually tied into the reading perfectly. So I just figured they were our first cards to be pulled. So we pulled Be Patient. We pulled, let's see, I think it was Time to Move On. This situation has no more to give. There's nothing left for you. And Lesson Learned. And then underneath that, out of the Wild Unknown Archetypes, we pulled the Comic, followed by the Shapeshifter, which was an archetype that came to visit a couple of weeks ago. So I feel like this is circling back to a similar thing that's connected to whatever was going on a couple of weeks ago. So the Comic is having an influence in the situation. And then the Maiden. The Maiden is one of the characters, along with the Hunter and the Crone and the Shaman, I believe, that may be found in the forest. Okay, and then underneath the Comic, we had the Emperor. Underneath Shapeshifter, we had the Hierophant. Underneath the World, we had Maiden. And underneath them all, we had the Tower. Okay, so I will include the photo from the post today at the end of the video so you can see the cards laid out and like how the pictures tell the story. So we're just going to talk about them like usual. Also, if you don't already, you can go follow me at Liz_Taylor_Magick. I'm also on Instagram as Light Love Magic, just like the channel, but I'm more active as Liz Taylor. But you can follow me there. And earlier in the day on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I write a blog about our reading, and that's what we come on later in the afternoon to talk about in the evening videos. But if you guys wanted to get a heads up on the message for the week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you can see those earlier on Instagram. Plus, I do some fun stuff in my stories and other things like that, so go follow me there. Oh, and while we're talking shop, like this video, subscribe to this channel if you will. And I'm trying to get the messages spread out. And comment or leave an emoji. Any little action you take helps this channel grow, and it helps the videos get out there in the search engine. Okay, so with no further ado. So I felt like, first of all, the whole be patient. I feel like we're very antsy to move into this next chapter of our lives. We've come through this year of 2022 of like clearing the ground, really like creating space and like leveling everything out and getting rid of everything that wasn't authentic to us, that wasn't really serving us for our highest good, that wasn't expansive to us or exciting anymore. The old story is finished. It's come to a conclusion. So we were clearing everything out so that we can rebuild, reinvent, rebirth. We're feeling so ready to get that new chapter started, to get on that new timeline. But the thing is that even though we're in 2023, we're still in the final season of 2022, because the winter is the end. So the winter is like the death, and we're like in the death of the death of the death phase now. But we're like moments away from spring, you guys. So this is just like a fortunate little pause in activity right now, where it feels like we're anxious and we're crawling up the walls inside. We're ready for like new exciting opportunities, new things to get started. But really, we're still letting all of the lessons that we've just come through solidify. We're letting all of the transformation that we came through just now solidify. We're letting that foundation set so it's nice and strong and solid, so that when life starts introducing new energies and things like this into our life, their energetic influence won't change us. You know what I mean? Like, we'll be adaptable, but we won't be so mutable that, like, for instance, if you started dating someone new, they wouldn't have so much influence over you that you would like forget all the things that you just learned and have to repeat those same lessons over and over again, right? If you were going to switch careers and do something different, if you had bad habits in your old workplace about not having a great work ethic, for instance, or if the case was that you were overgiving, right? And you were overworking yourself and putting in more effort than you were getting returned, right? Or maybe you were just working inefficiently. You want to make sure that you don't set out in the next new chance doing those same default old patterns, right? Or going into these new situations with the same old mindset that you had before, or the same attitudes. We want to make sure that we're really starting with our best fresh foot forward with a clean slate in that up level, right? Because life is going to continue to present us these challenges, this probably very similar same ones. So it's going to be up to us to take what we've learned and apply the curriculum and start putting it into real world experience, right? It's like we've just been through college, right? In our learning, right? Throughout our life. And now on our timeline, it's like we graduated college. There are certain lessons that we've learned. And now it's like we're taking our knowledge and experience out into the real world, where now we just have to apply it. It's like, all right, there you go. That's it. Now this is life. So be grateful for this little moment to catch your breath, to appreciate how far you've come, and to look forward to where you're going. But you can start to get that mental practice, start visualizing yourself in your new life, coming up against these similar circumstances, but like visualize yourself handling it differently this time, approaching it from a new perspective, thinking about things differently. You can sort of rehearse and practice that up-leveled version of yourself, like an athlete would, right? Going through like your plays in your mind, getting ready for the game. You're creating these new neural pathways, right? And you're using your neural plasticity to, like, we've been reprogramming our subconscious and trying to get all of these things up into our consciousness so that we can change them, right? So now's a good time to start like practicing getting those patterns, getting those new healthy habits into place. So moving on to our archetypes. The comic Crowning the Emperor, I feel like, first of all, after the universe has just told us to take a chill pill, chill out, sit down, Myrtle, chill. Now it's telling us to lighten up. the Emperor is very, like, on their game. They're on top of their shit. Like, the Emperor is, like, aware of all the things that need to happen. They have their multiple kingdoms in order. All is in order. However, they're not known to be the funnest character in the deck, or the most, like, humorous or lighthearted. They, like, are not known to have a sense of humor. So, lighten up, Emperor. We all need to lighten up. We need to be less stiff, less rigid, less dogmatic. You know, something that kept coming to my mind as this message was coming through was how it always marvels me that, and it's so ironic and it's so perfect and, like, so, I mean, this is just the case, right? Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus the Christ, was told all the time that he was in the wrong, that he was hanging out with the wrong crowd, that he was behaving in a way that was unflattering to his family. You know, I mean, Jesus was taking flack all the time. And it was because the Pharisees were these types of people who were all about the rules, all about following, you know, the dogma and the doctrine, and, you know, making sure that everything was, you know, on the up and ups. And it was all about material procedure, the things that you do, the show. But it wasn't like, it makes me think of our Secret Teachings of Jesus video from the weekend about the wisdom versus the wisdom of death. It's like the mentality of a materially focused person rather than the perspective of a spiritually focused person. It's like they're attacking things from a completely different perspective and approach. But I do think that the universe is asking that we lighten up. We're not so rigid, right? Because, like, people couldn't see the Christ in front of them because they were so obsessed with the rules. Oh, Jesus, you're breaking the rules. You're hanging out with these people that you're not supposed to be hanging out with. But they couldn't see that what he was doing was getting rid of the rigidity that wasn't serving anyone, and he was trying to open up, right? The gift, the blessing, the wisdom for all, right? These people, these Gentiles, they're not gonna value the mitzvahs. They're not gonna understand the purpose of them. They're not gonna understand the depths of what's involved in them. But they can adopt these principles that will free them and liberate them from the inside, right? And so a lot of people were not excited about that. They did not want to open up the religion, right? They didn't want to essentially culturally appropriate and have their traditions watered down. And so Jesus was just trying to, like, include everyone in wisdom that would help them find inner peace and cultivate the kingdom of heaven within. He was trying to lighten up, open, you know, accept, bring people in. But people were a bit too stiff. They were too stern. They were too stiff-necked. They wanted to stick to the where's the Hierophant? The tradition, right? It's another thing coming up in the reading. It's the shapeshifter over the Hierophant. Now, the positive side of the shapeshifter is that the shapeshifter is adaptable. It's humorous, right? It can, you know, shift and evolve and change. And so with the context of this comic, the sacred fool that we actually brought up the other day. I remember saying something about the sacred fool in the last couple of days. The sacred fool, you know, lightening up, getting past, like, these old, outdated, stiff, stern, rigid approaches, this dogma, this thing that's like religion that's dead without the spirituality in it, right? This tendency to be like, well, it has to be this way because this is how it's always been and this is how it was presented to me. The Hierophant, the energy of the Hierophant card, the idea about this is like usually like represented by the Pope, right? It's an organized tradition, right? These are like organizations like on a huge scale, like church, like the Catholic Church, like church in general, right? Organized religion. These are systems that are official. I can't think of the word that I want to use. It's like tradition, it's steeped in tradition. But yeah, there's something about this, with it being with the shapeshifter and the comic, or and the emperor, and it's like with the tower underneath. The tower was under these. So if we're having these adaptable changes, it's like we need to take what's the valuable messages from the spirituality and apply it to our heart, to our soul, to our spirit. We need to show up in the world, and we need to start adapting these principles in how we treat one another, in how we show up to our life, in how we treat the planet, and how we treat the animals on the planet, right? This is about letting go of the finger pointing game and the hypocrisy and the stone throwing of being like the stiff, legalistic rule follower, the Pharisee that is going to have Jesus the Christ tried for being like a bad influence, for being a heretic. Jesus, the heretic, right? So the Hierophant in this situation is putting the cart before the horse, right? They're so attached to their truth, to their hard, stone-like, stiff truth, that they're going to miss the Christ in front of them. The Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, talked about the word being the living waters, right? There's some verse in the Bible that talks about how the word should be something about how it should be either a tree that grows branches off the stump rather than a branch that is cut that dies away. It's something about the plant, something about a vine, like that, like the word or the insights, right? Truth should keep growing. It should keep branching off. It's like a grapevine where we keep continuing to take a sample from the vine and grow more and more and more vines from it, right? The living water is not a stagnant water. It grows. It's alive. It expands. It continues to evolve. So it's not just a one and done. There are more insights, more layers, more depth, more expansion to be had. And so this is about allowing that to happen and not cutting ourselves off from more enlightenment, more wisdom, more expansion of consciousness, because we're just stuck to old mindsets. We're going to stay in that glass ceiling of understanding because that's what the generations before us gave us. But the thing is that every generation is more conscious than the last. Every generation is more expanded, more evolved, and we're supposed to be. So if we're just never growing past what the last generation gave us, and they never grew past what the last generation before them gave them, that mindset is why we are still 2,000 years after what Jesus came here to tell us, and we still have barely made it an inch in our progress at all. So we need to be more flexible. We need to lighten up a bit and free ourselves from the bounds of the illusions of propping up these old, outdated traditions that we think are our core beliefs, but really they're just beliefs that got attached. Like, they're not necessarily truth. The thing is, like, what we're holding up here, what we're trying to hold up, these false belief systems, what we believe to be true may not be the whole truth. It doesn't mean that it is the divine truth just because we think it is, just because it was given to us the way it was given. How much have you traveled in life and seen things and heard things from other people's perspectives, right? How many people have you known from different walks of life in your life, right? And the people that you knew that gave you the beliefs that you have, were they exposed to other people who've had other experiences? Like, the more that you open yourself up to others, the less rigid your thinking can be, because you open your heart up and it expands with love and compassion and understanding, because you start understanding what it's like to walk a mile in other people's shoes when you take the time to get to know people that aren't just like you, that aren't just like your echo chamber that you're in, right? So we're expanding beyond our current traditions, our current belief systems, things, false senses of security that we prop ourselves up on. All of this stuff is trying to fall away, and we're trying so desperately to hold it all together because that's what we're used to. That's what we're used to knowing. But it's trying to come down. This is the 2022, like the final call, right? We're like, no, just something familiar. Let it go. We're going to be expanding past this. So where are we? The maiden was crowning the world. And so the world is a card where it talks about how we've learned these lessons. And we've really and truly come so far, and we've come to the end of a cycle. And at this point, we can be finished with this lesson, at least to the degree that we can experience it from another level now. You know, we don't have to keep going around and around and around. Instead, the next time something similar in this curriculum and this subject matter comes in, we can meet it at a higher level, right? It's not that we're repeating the lessons again and again at the same level. We're going deeper, right? It's like when we graduate from grade to grade, we still study maths and sciences, but we just go deeper and more complex. So at this point in this stage, the maiden, who is part of the triple form of the maiden, the mother, and the crone. So the maiden is representing the young person, the novice, full of naivete. And they are alluring, and they're attractive, and they are inviting, and they're magnetic. But they're also very like wide-eyed and gullible. And so this makes the maiden very vulnerable to predators, because they're like, oh, here is a very attractive, gullible novice here. And so this is what causes us to have to go through so many repeated lessons, right? Because we're this bright light, and we're trusting, and we haven't learned the hard lessons yet. But now we have, right? And so the maiden has learned her lessons, and she knows better now. And so now we're going forward with all of the optimism of the maiden, all of the youthful glow and spirit and radiance. But we have the savvy and the wisdom now to be able to meet these experiences in a different way, because they're going to come back. These lessons, similar lessons, will continue to return, but how we show up to it is what we control, is what we choose. And that's where we embody our up level, right? So lesson learned was with the maiden and the world. So that makes total sense. And so with the shapeshifter, the Hierophant, and the Tower, time to move on. There is no more that you can be learned from the situation, was in that column. And so what I think that is just this old way of doing religion, of being judgmental, of being prejudiced, of being exclusive and judgy and throwing shame and shade and blame. Like, all of that dogma, that stone throwing, that Bible beating doesn't work anymore. And there are a few people trying to still grasp that method of meeting the world and trying to spread the gospel, but no one is wooed by the banging of hammers and the clanging of gongs. You want to woo people in with a sweet aroma, right? An inviting smell that makes you think, something nurturing inside here, something inviting, something that entices me to want, to desire more, right? And so that's how we present, that's how we invite people in to have that spiritual relationship for themselves with divine, with Holy Spirit, with Source, with Christ consciousness. It's not Bible beating. It's not judging people. It's not, shaming them or making them feel guilty or using fear tactics or manipulation. It's not getting close to people, waiting for them to trust you, and then coercively trying to break them down and change them and give them ultimatums. That is not how it works anymore. No one is coming along with this, okay? So we have to adapt. There's no more to be gained from that approach to religion. That dogma is going by the wayside. It's the spiritual journey, the soul healing, the soul correction. It's like we want to understand how to cultivate the kingdom of heaven within. And it does not start by people wagging their finger in your face, making you feel guilty for who you are, for not being perfect. No one's perfect, right? These people pretending that they're perfect are repressed. They're full of fear, they're unhappy, and they feel guilty and ashamed of themselves all the time. So let it go. Let them do their thing. Have compassion for them. But just know that even Jesus Christ was told that he was not good enough, that he was not pious enough, that he was a heretic, and that he was demonic, and he was going to hell. And this is Jesus. So it's time to move on from that Pharisee mindset, right? We need to start opening our hearts and spreading love and bringing people in with unity, right? When we present the bridegroom to the bride of Christ, we want to lead the way in a way that's enticing to the bride to receive the bridegroom. The bridegroom being thy kingdom come, the truth, the light, right? So you can't do that with a jackhammer. Your husband's coming. He can't wait to control you, change you, make you feel like shit. No. We need to throw down petals, right? We need to put beautiful smells in the air. We need to bring in comforting, soft, sensual sounds, plucking of harp strings, sweet nothings whispered, right? That's how we woo the bride of Christ into the kingdom. Not by force, not by these stiff, uptight, rigid, old ways of approaching things. We can start celebrating, including everyone, lightening up, right? A lot of people, I actually want to read the comment because I think that was a really, really helpful message. Okay. The comic, the joker, the clown, the fool. The comic carries a remedy for all that ails this world. Amid the deepest pain and suffering, there is always potential to lift up and out of the darkness through laughter. Though dismissed by some as lowbrow or unsophisticated, this archetype actually has a highly advanced mind. Some may use the word genius, as humor requires one to see the situation from afar rather than be swept away by the drama. The comic sees and accepts the messiness of life, using it as material to be mixed and shaped into a potion to soothe the stressed and serious mind. They literally lighten us up. Thus, within the comic is usually the sage or the magician, working healing magic upon any audience who will lend an ear. The comic may be the archetype that heals the deep division in our world, one pun at a time. See, we're talking about unity, bringing people together. When light, hilarious, ingenious, spirited, easygoing. When dark, sarcastic, harsh, brooding, drunk. Go deeper with images of laughing Buddha, stand-up or improv comedy. The comic has plenty of shade to throw on others, and it can fall into the shadow at the drop of a hat. Beware their sharp claws. Joy, jokes, and smiles are signs of a happy heart. Be wary of spiritual practices or teachers who leave the comic by the wayside. And is there anything? Maiden. I think that was it for today. But yeah, so the maiden has learned the lessons from the past and now can move forward more streetwise, right? Using that wisdom, but still having that youthful spirit. All right, you guys, I am tired. I'm gonna try to settle down, go to bed early. So hopefully I can do a special Valentine's spread for us tomorrow, but we'll see. All right, ciao.